Welcome to Your Short Questions with Narayan. In today's episode, we will be discussing about economics, that is part 1 given in the graduation syllabus. This contains very short answer type questions, and long answer type questions. And this content is very important for the students who are doing the graduation in commerce, that is Bcom, BA Economics, BA LLB, MCom, Chartered Accountancy, CUET aspirants, UGC-NET aspirants who are going to appear for UGC-NET for economics, UPSC, state PCS and other competitive exams related to economics, commerce, accountancy and also for all other government competitive exams. So let's start from question number 1. What is the origin of the word economics? The word economics originates from the ancient Greek word oikonomia, which means household management. It is actually a combination of two words, oikos meaning house and nomos meaning law or custom. What is economics? What is the scope of it in real life? Economics is the study of how individuals, businesses and governments allocate scarce resources to satisfy unlimited wants and needs. The scope of economics includes the study of individual and collective economic behavior, including production, consumption, distribution, trade and policy making at micro and macro levels. Can economics be positive or negative? Yes, economics can be both positive and normative. The normative is often misinterpreted as negative. What do you mean by positive economics? Positive economics is the branch of economics that focuses on describing and analyzing economic phenomena as they are. You must remember these keywords, that focuses on describing and analyzing economic phenomena as they are. This is the keyword, that is the of positive economics, as they are. See, I am rounding it, please remember. Without making value judgments, means it is non-judgmental, positive economics. It deals with factual statements and relationships such as cause and effect and can be tested and validated with evidence. This is also a keyword, that is cause and effect. An example of it, an increase in fuel prices leads to decrease in fuel consumption. Who is known as the father of economics? Adam Smith is known as the father of economics. He earned this title for his pioneering work, An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of Nations, written in 1776, which laid the foundation of classical economics and introduced key concepts like the division of labor, the invisible hand, and free markets. Define normative economy. Normative economics is the branch of economics that deal with value judgments and opinions about what the economy ought to be like or what economic policies should be implemented. Ought to be and what policies should be implemented, these are the keywords. It focuses on prescribing solutions and making recommendations based on societal values and goals rather than analyzing facts. Example, the government should increase the minimum wage to reduce income inequality. Moving to the next question. USA follows socialist economic system, true or false? It is false because USA follows capitalist economic system, whereas socialist economic system was followed in former Soviet Union. What is static economy? A static economy is an economic system where there is no change in the structure, output or resources over time. In a static economy, factors such as production, employment and technological progress remain constant. See, these three things remain constant. One is production, employment and technological progress, they remain constant and there is no dynamic growth or evolution. What is dynamic economy? A dynamic economy is an economic system that is constantly evolving, adapting and growing due to various factors such as technological advancement, changes in consumer preferences, government policies and global trade. In a dynamic economy, there is ongoing change in the production, distribution and consumption of goods and services. This contrasts with a static economy which remains relatively unchanged over time. What is macroeconomics? Macroeconomics is the branch of economics that focuses on the behavior and performance of an economy as a whole rather than individual markets. It examines aggregate variables such as national income. These are the keywords you must know. What are the factors involved in it? National income, unemployment rates, inflation, economic growth, and government policies, and how they interact to shape the overall economy. What is microeconomics? Microeconomics is the branch of economics that focuses on the behavior of individual consumers, firms, and industries within an economy. It analyzes how these economic agents make decisions regarding the allocation of limited resources and how their decisions affect supply and demand for goods and services, which in turn determines prices and quantities in specific markets. What do you mean by partial economy? A partial economy is an economic system or model that focuses on a specific segment or part of the economy rather than the entire economy as a whole. In a partial economy, the analysis is limited to a specific industry, sector, or group of economic activities. Give an example of microeconomics. A consumer's choice. If a person decides to buy 5 apples instead of 3 at a price of rupees 10 per apple, microeconomics would study how this decision maximizes the consumer's utility, considering their income, preferences, and the price of apples. What is demand? Give an example. Demand in economics refers to the quantity of goods or services that consumers are willing and able to purchase at different prices during a given period of time, all other factors remaining constant. What is meant by market equilibrium in microeconomics? Market equilibrium is the point where the quantity demanded by consumers equals the quantity supplied by the producers at a specific price, resulting in a stable market price. What is market demand? Market demand refers to the total quantity of goods or services that all consumers in a market are willing and able to purchase at a specific price and within a given period. It's derived from the individual demands of all consumers within the market. Market demand is influenced by factors such as the price of the product, the keywords and the factors you must remember: price of the products, consumer income levels, preferences, prices of related goods, and other economic and social factors affecting consumer behavior. Name the factors that influence market demand: price of product, consumer income levels, preferences, prices of related goods. They are the factors that influence market demand. What do you mean by individual demand? Individual demand refers to the quantity of a good or service that a single consumer is willing and able to buy at different prices during a specific time period, with all other factors remaining constant. Factors influencing individual demand are price of the good, income, tastes and preferences, and prices of related goods. What is the role of supply in economics? Supply in economics refers to the quantity of good or service that the producers are willing and able to offer for sale at various prices. It plays a crucial role in determining market prices and quantities, influencing how resources are allocated in the economy. Define supply in economics. Supply in economics refers to the quantity of good or service that producers are willing to offer for sale in the market at various prices over a certain period of time, and assuming all other factors remaining constant. Example, if the price of wheat rises from 2,700 per quintal to 3,000 rupees per quintal, farmers may decide to plant more wheat because the higher price makes it more profitable, thus increasing the quantity supplied. What are given goods? Given goods are the type of inferior good for which an increase in price leads to an increase in quantity demanded, contrary to the basic law of demand in economics. This phenomenon occurs because the income effect, that is reduction in real income, outweighs the substitution effect, that is the tendency to substitute more expensive goods with cheaper alternatives. causing consumers to buy more of the given good as even as its price rises. What is scarcity in economics? Scarcity in economics refers to the fundamental concept that resources are limited while human wants are virtually unlimited. This imbalance forces individuals, businesses and governments to make choices about how to allocate their limited resources such as time, money, labor and raw materials to meet competing demands. Give an example of given goods. Example of given goods, rice or bread. In some low income regions, if the price of rice or bread rises, people may buy more of it instead of other more expensive foods because their real income has effectively decreased, forcing them to stick with the staple despite the higher price. Because rice or bread are staple food. What is dumping in economics? Dumping in economics refers to the practice of selling a product in a foreign market at a price lower than its cost of production or lower than the price in the domestic market. This is often done to gain a competitive advantage, increase market share, or drive competitors out of the market. Give two examples of substitute goods. Two examples of substitute goods are tea and coffee. If the price of tea increases, consumers may switch to coffee as a substitute, assuming both goods satisfy a similar need for a hot caffeinated beverage. See, this is tea. If the price of tea rises, the people may switch over to coffee. Second example, butter and margarine. But if the price of butter rises, suppose it is increasing, then people will prefer margarine because both are used in breads. So answer is, if the price of butter rises, people may choose margarine as an alternative because both are used similarly in cooking and spreading on bread. What are related goods? Related goods are products whose demand is interconnected, meaning the demand for one good can influence the demand for another. Related goods are typically categorized into two types. These are goods that can replace each other in consumption. If the price of one good increases, let's talk of tea. If the price of tea increases, the demand for its substitute is likely to increase. People may prefer coffee more as consumers switch to the cheaper option. Example, tea and coffee, Pepsi and Coke, butter and margarine. This is butter. If the price of butter increases, people will try to find a substitute for it, which is margarine. Complementary goods. These are goods that are used together, meaning the consumption of one leads to the consumption of the other. Because if you buy a vehicle, then there has to be consumption of fuel. If the price of one good increases, the demand for its complement is likely to decrease since they are jointly consumed. Example, cars and fuel, bread and butter, and printers and ink cartridges. If the price of printers increase, the people will buy less, so as the consumption of cartridges will decrease. If the price of cars increase, people may buy less, so the fuel consumption will be less. If the price of bread increases, then people may not prefer to buy bread, so as the butter selling will be decreased. I hope you understand this. State the welfare definition of economics. The welfare definition of economics was proposed by Alfred Marshall, who defined economics as a study of how people make a living. According to this definition, economics is concerned with the maximization of social welfare, focusing on the distribution of wealth and resources to improve the well-being of individuals in society. What do you mean by market equilibrium? Market equilibrium is the condition where the quantity of goods or services demanded by consumers equals the quantity supplied by producers at a particular price, known as the equilibrium price. At this price, there is no excess demand or excess supply, and the market is in a stable state. Example, suppose the demand for apples is 1000 units at rupees 5 per unit, and at the same time suppliers are willing to supply 1000 units. This market is in equilibrium at this price and quantity. What is utility in economics? Utility in economics refers to the satisfaction or pleasure derived from consuming goods and services. It is a measure of the value or benefit that an individual gains from a product or service. What do you mean by marginal utility? Marginal utility refers to the additional satisfaction or benefit a consumer derives from consuming one more unit of good or service. It is a fundamental concept in economics used to understand consumer behavior and decision making. Marginal utility is calculated as the change in total utility divided by the change in the quantity of the goods consumed. Marginal utility MU is equal to delta TU by delta Q. Delta TU means change in the total utility divided by the change in quantity. Delta Q is change in quantity and delta TU is change in total utility. Where MU is marginal utility, TU is total utility and Q is the quantity. Name the type of utilities. There are two types of utilities. Total utility, the total satisfaction derived from all units of goods and services consumed. Marginal utility is the additional satisfaction gained from consuming one more unit of a good or service. What is total utility? Total utility refers to the total amount of satisfaction or benefit a consumer derives from consuming a certain quantity of goods or services. It represents the cumulative utility gained as consumption increases. Total utility is the sum of the marginal utilities of all units consumed. So TU is equal to sigma of MU. Now let's move to SATQS and LATQS, that is short and long answer type questions. Differentiate between microeconomics and macroeconomics. Microeconomics meaning the study of individual economics units such as consumers, firms and markets. Macroeconomics is the study of the economy as a whole, including national and global economic factors. What is the focus? Microeconomics focuses on specific aspects like pricing, production and consumption of individual goods and services. Macroeconomics focuses on large-scale economic issues such as national income, inflation, unemployment and economic growth. The key variables in microeconomics are demand and supply, individual market prices, consumer behavior and firms' decisions. In the case of macroeconomics, the key variables are national income, GDP, inflation, unemployment, fiscal and monetary policies. Examples of microeconomics: study of the effect of a price change in a specific product on its demand. In the case of macroeconomics, analysis of the impact of a government's fiscal policy on national unemployment rates. What is the policy application? Microeconomics helps in making decisions for individual firms or households. Macroeconomics helps in making national policies related to economic growth, employment and inflation control. Compare static economy and dynamic economy. Static economy means an economy that remains in equilibrium with no change over time. Try to remember the keywords. Dynamic economy, an economy that is continuously changing and evolving, that is dynamic. People say he's a dynamic person. That means he's a person who changes according to the situation or who improves. Change over time. No change in economic conditions in the case of static economy, resources or technology. There is no change at all. In the case of dynamic economy, constant changes in production, technology and innovation. Economic growth. No growth or development in the case of static economy. Growth and development are ongoing process in the case of dynamic economy. Market conditions. In the case of static economy, markets are fixed and unchanging. In the case of dynamic economy, markets are subject to fluctuations and evolution. Focus. The focus of static economy is on short-term equilibrium without considering long-term changes. In case of dynamic economy, it focuses on long-term growth, development and innovation. Examples: a simple barter economy or a theoretical model with fixed conditions. In dynamic economy, example is modern capitalist economies that experience technological advances and global trade. That means they have to change. Differentiate between demand and supply. Demand meaning the quantity of a good or service that consumers are willing and able to buy at various prices. Supply, the quantity of good or service that producers are willing and able to sell at various prices. Law. The law of demand states that as the price of good rises, the quantity demanded decreases and vice versa. In the case of supply, the law of supply states that As the price of good rises, the quantity supplied increases and vice versa. Relationship with price. The demand inversely related to price. Higher prices lead to lower demand. In this case of supply, it is directly related to price. Higher prices lead to higher supply. Focus. Demand focuses on consumer behavior and preferences. Supply focuses on producer behavior and production capabilities. Graph. The demand curve slopes downward from the left to right. Slopes downward from the left to right. That is demand curve. This means demand curve moves like this, left to right. Whereas the supply curve slopes upward from left to right, like this. Example, if the price of smartphones decreases, more people will demand them. That is demand's example. If the price of smartphones increase, producers will supply more. That is an example of supply. Differentiate between partial economy and general economy. Meaning, partial economy is an economy that focuses on a specific sector or area of economic activity. General economy that considers the entire system, integrating all sectors and factors of production. Partial economy scope limited to a specific aspect such as agriculture, industry or trade, whereas in general economy, broader, encompassing all sectors of the economy like production, consumption, investment and distribution. Partial economy concentrates on the interaction of limited economic variables, and general economy involves the interaction of multiple economic variables and factors. These are the scopes. Where is it applicable? Partial economy is applicable, often used in microeconomic analysis focusing on individual markets. General economy typically used in macroeconomic analysis studying the economy as a whole. Examples, the analysis of the demand and supply of a specific product in the case of partial economy. National income analysis including inflation, unemployment and GDP. They are the examples of general economy. Now let's discuss few MCQs related to them. Which of the following best defines a partial economy? That is, the option B is the correct. An economy that focuses on specific sector or market within the economy. That is an example of partial economy. General economy is concerned with the entire economic system including all sectors, markets and factors of production. So answer B is correct. Differentiate between substitute goods and complementary goods in a tabular form. We have discussed both previously. Still, let's recall once again. The meaning, goods that can replace each other are substitute goods. The goods that are used together where the use of one increases the demand for the other are complementary goods. Positive relationship. As the price of one increases, the demand for the other increases. There is a negative relationship in the case of complementary goods. As the price of one increases, the demand for the other decreases. Price effect. An increase in the price of one leads to an increase in the demand for the other in the case of substitute goods. An increase in the price of one leads to the decrease in the demand for the other in the complementary goods. Substitution effect. Consumers shift to the substitute when the price of one increases. No substitution effect. They are often used together. So a rise in one price affects the consumption of both. Example, tea and coffee, butter and margarine. In the complementary goods, car and petrol, printer and ink cartridge, they complement to each other. Two more MCQs. Which one of the following is an example of substitute goods? We just discussed previously. There are tea and coffee. They are substitute goods. If the price of tea increases, one may prefer coffee. If price of coffee increases, then one may prefer tea. When the price of one good rises, the demand for its complementary good tends to decrease. Complementary goods. Demand for its complementary good decreases. How? If the price of car increases, vehicles increase, the demand for petrol decreases. Write a short note on price ceiling. Price ceiling is a Price ceiling is legally imposed maximum price that sellers can charge for a good or service set by the government. It is typically implemented to make essential goods or services affordable for the general public, especially during shortages or economic crisis. The government imposes laws so that they are known as Essential Commodities Act. According to this act, the prices cannot cross over the limit set by the government. Types of price ceiling. One is binding price ceiling. Set below the market equilibrium price, it causes a shortage as the demand exceeds supply. Example is rent control in rural areas. Non-binding price ceiling. This is another type of price ceiling. Set above the market equilibrium price, it has no effect on the market as the price naturally remains below the ceiling. Example of price ceiling in India. This is set by the Essential Commodities Act of 1955. The Indian government imposes price ceilings on essential goods like sugar, wheat, rice, pulses, kerosene and LPG to ensure affordability for the common people, and they are also essential. The primary purpose of implementing a price ceiling is to do what? The primary purpose of implementing a price ceiling is to control inflation and makes goods affordable and available to all. Which of the following is a common consequence of binding price ceiling? Binding price ceiling, it causes shortage of goods in the market. The option C is correct. Discuss law of supply. The law of supply states that all other factors being constant, that is ceteris paribus, all other factors being constant, the quantity of goods supplied by producer increases as its price rises and decreases its price falls. These are the keywords you must remember. The quantity of goods supplied by producers increases as its price rises and it decreases as its price falls. Ceteris paribus is nothing but it is all other factors being constant. The relationship shows a direct or positive correlation between the price and quantity supplied. While answering question, you must give a supply schedule and also a supply curve. See how this is happening. When the price is 10, the quantity supplied is 20. When the price increases to 20, the quantity supplied also increases to 40. So when the price increases, the supply too increases 40 to 80. While seeing the curve, the price is on the y-axis and it is in the x-axis. What is the quantity supplied? You can see when the price is 10, quantity supplied is 20. When the price is 20, quantity supplied is 40. When the price is 30, quantity supplied is 60. When the price is 40, quantity supplied is 80. When you join all these points, they will fall in a straight line. And its nature is left to right, upward, increasing, as we discussed previously. Two more MCQs. The law of supply states that other things being equal, as price increases, quantity supplied increases. The same price schedule as we discussed in the previous question for your answer is the price increases, quantity supplied to increase. The supply curve typically slopes upward from the left. The same we discussed previously. The same graph is there. This is from left to right. This is left, this is right, and the movement is upward. Moving to the next question. What is wage? A wage refers to the monetary compensation or remuneration paid by an employer to a worker for their services or labor. It is typically calculated based on the amount of time work. It could be hourly, daily or monthly, or the quantity of work done. Explain theories of wages. The theories of wages are subsistence theory of wages given by David Ricardo. According to him, wages tend to stabilize at the subsistence level, which is the minimum amount needed for workers to sustain themselves and their families. Wage fund theory given by John Stuart Mill. Wages depend on the amount of capital allocated by employers for payment to workers. The total wage fund is fixed at a given time and wages are determined by dividing the fund among workers. Residual claimant theory given by Francis A. Walker. Workers receive wages from the residual amount left after paying for other factors of production such as rent, interest and profits. Fourth is marginal productivity theory of wages given by J.B. Clark. Wages are determined by the marginal productivity of labor. A worker is paid according to the value of the additional output they produce for the firm. Bargaining theory of wages given by John Davidson. Wages are determined through the bargaining process between employers and employees, that is unions. The stronger party, employer or worker, influence the wage rate. You might have seen that trade unions demand for high wages. They go for indefinite strike and all so that the management meet their demands. Behavioral theory of wages. This modern theory suggests that wages depend on behavioral factors like motivation, job satisfaction and psychological needs rather than purely economic principles. What role does economics play in the GDP of a country? Economics plays a critical role in determining the GDP of a country as it directly influences the production, distribution and consumption of goods and services within the economy. What is the role of economics? Health of economy. Economics helps in interpreting the data on income, output and expenditure to understand the overall economic performance. GDP growth. These are the roles of economics in GDP. Economic theory explains how investment in capital, labor and technology improves productivity and thus boosts GDP. Economists study these relationships and propose policies to encourage investment, innovation and human capital development, which can lead to sustained GDP growth. Investment in capital formation. Investment in physical capital such as machinery, factories and infrastructure and human capital such as education and skills development plays a vital role in increasing the economy's productive capacity. This in turn leads to higher GDP. Government policies and fiscal management. Economics helps in understanding the impact of fiscal and monetary policies on aggregate demand, investment and consumption. For instance, increased government spending on infrastructure projects can stimulate economic activity and thus raises GDP. Conversely, austerity measures may slow down economic activity, reducing GDP growth. International trade and external factors. Economic theories such as comparative advantage explain how trade can increase GDP by allowing countries to specialize in the production of goods and services in which they have a relative efficiency. Global factors like exchange rates, trade agreements and global demand for a country's exports also influence GDP. Consumption and household behavior. Economists study consumer behavior to understand how factors such as disposable income, interest rates and inflation expectations affect consumption pattern. Theories like the consumption function in Keynesian economics help explain how changes in income and interest rates influence consumer spending, directly impacting GDP. Labor market and employment. Economic analysis helps determine the optimal allocation of labor, identify trends in unemployment and propose policies to reduce unemployment. The labor force's size and productivity are key determinants of GDP growth. Long-term economic development. Economics helps policymakers to understand the factors that lead to long-term growth and prosperity, providing frameworks for achieving sustainable increases in GDP through investment in education, health, infrastructure and technological innovation. Discuss in detail economic problem. In economics, every society faces three fundamental economic problems that arise due to limited resources and infinite wants. These problems are central to any economic system and their solutions impact the allocation and utilization of resources. The three basic economic problems are what to produce. This problem addresses the question of what goods and services a society should produce. Since resources like land, labor and capital are limited, not all desires can be met. The society needs to decide which goods to prioritize, such as whether to focus on consumer goods, capital goods or services like healthcare and education. Implications. Resource allocation. The way resources are distributed across different sectors determines the type of goods and services available to consumers. Economic planning. In a command economy, the government makes these decisions while in a market economy, the forces of demand and supply typically drive these decisions. Opportunity cost. The decision on what to produce involves an opportunity cost, as producing more of one good means fewer resources available for others. How to produce? This is the second problem. This problem resolves around determining the methods and techniques used to produce goods and services. Given the available technology, labor and capital, society needs to decide whether to use labor-intensive method or capital-intensive method. The decision also involves choosing between traditional or modern production methods. Implication. Efficiency. The chosen production method affects the efficiency of resources used. The goal is to maximize output with the least input of resources. Technology and innovation. The methods of production determine how technological advancement and innovations are incorporated into the economy, improving productivity and quality. Environmental impact. Production techniques may have environmental consequences such as pollution, which must be considered in a sustainable economy. For whom to produce? That is the third problem. This problem addresses the issue of how the produced goods and services are distributed among the members of society. Since resources are limited, the society needs to decide who will benefit from the goods and services produced, whether through equitable distribution or based on market demand. Implications. Income distribution. The way in which wealth and income are distributed among the population impacts the standard of living. In an unequal society, a small portion of the population might have access to the majority of the goods. Social justice. How the economy decides who gets what can lead to debates over fairness, especially in mixed economies that combine market mechanism with government intervention aimed at reducing inequality. Government role. Governments may intervene through taxation, subsidies, or social welfare programs to ensure a more equitable distribution of goods. The way a society solves these problems affects the well-being of its citizens and the long-term sustainability of its economy. Discuss elasticity of demand and elasticity of supply in detail. Elasticity of demand, that is price elasticity of demand, PED. The price elasticity of demand measures how much the quantity demanded of a good or service changes in response to a change in its price. PED is equal to percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in price. Elastic demand. If PED, that is price elasticity of demand, is more than 1, the demand is elastic. A small change in price leads to a larger change in the quantity demanded. When we call it inelastic, if price elasticity of demand is less than 1, the demand is inelastic. A change in price leads to a smaller change in quantity demanded. Unitary elastic demand, if PED, that is price elasticity of demand, is 1, the demand is unitary elastic. The percentage change in quantity demanded is exactly equal to the percentage change in price. Now let's move to elasticity of supply, that is PES. The price elasticity of supply measures how much the quantity supplied of a good or service changes in response to a change in its price. PES is equal to percentage change in quantity supplied divided by percentage change in price. When we call it elastic supply, if price elasticity of supply is more than 1, the supply is elastic. A small change in price leads to a larger change in the quantity supplied. Inelastic, we say, when PES is less than 1, the supply is inelastic. A change in price leads to a smaller change in quantity supplied. Now, unitary elastic supply, if PES is 1, the supply is unitary elastic. The percentage change in quantity supplied is exactly equal to the percentage change in price. Effect on market. In markets with elastic demand and supply, there is a greater responsiveness to price changes, leading to more significant changes in surpluses for both consumers and producers. In markets with inelastic demand and supply, the surpluses are less sensitive to price changes, meaning that price changes have a smaller effect on both consumer and producer welfare. With this, we come to an end of this episode. I hope you like the contents of this video, please hit the subscribe button and click on the bell icon. Be the first to get next sure shot questions with Narayan. Comment, it guides me to set the right questions for you. Like it, it encourages me. Of course, share it. Thank you for watching me. Thank you once again.